In the very beginning of the world, God made the first man and the first woman. Their names were Adam and Eve. They lived in a beautiful garden called Eden, a perfect place filled with everything they could ever need. Adam and Eve were special because they were the first parents of everyone who would ever live in the world. They were the start of the human family, and their story is the first story in the Bible about people learning to live on earth. God loved them very much and gave them the whole world to look after and enjoy together. After Adam and Eve left the beautiful Garden of Eden, they started a new life. Soon they had their first child, a baby boy named Cain. They were so happy to have a son. A little while later they had another baby boy, and they named him Abel. Cain and Abel were brothers, the very first brothers in the world. They grew up together, playing and learning from their parents, Adam and Eve. They were a family, just like families we know today, with a mother, a father, and children to love and care for. As the boys grew bigger and stronger, they each learned how to do different kinds of work. Cain decided to become a farmer. He worked very hard in the fields, planting seeds and watching them grow into fruits and vegetables. He learned how to care for the land so it would give him good food. Abel chose a different job. He became a shepherd, which means he took care of sheep. He would lead his flock of sheep to find green grass to eat and fresh water to drink, protecting them from any danger and making sure they were safe. So, this was the very first family. Adam and Eve were the parents, and their two sons were Cain, the farmer who worked with the soil, and Abel, the shepherd who watched over his flock of sheep. They lived and worked on the land, learning about the world that God had made. They were the beginning of everything, and their story shows us how life started for people outside of the perfect garden. Their family was the first to experience the joys and the new challenges of living in the world and making choices every single day. One day, the two brothers, Cain and Abel, decided they wanted to give a special gift to God. This was their way of saying thank you to God for all the good things He had given them. It was a way to show their love and respect. Cain, being a farmer, looked at all the food he had grown from the ground. He had worked hard to grow his crops, so he gathered some of the fruits and vegetables from his harvest. He chose these things from his field to be his special offering to God, showing the results of his hard work. Abel, the shepherd, also wanted to give a very special gift to God from his flock. He didn't just pick any sheep. He looked carefully through all his animals and chose the very best ones. He brought the firstborn lambs from his flock, which were the most precious to him. He wanted to give God something that was truly important and showed how much he cared. Abel brought this special gift with a happy and loving heart, wanting to honor God in the best way he knew how. He chose his gift carefully to show his deep gratitude. So both brothers brought their gifts and presented them to God. Cain offered the food he had grown, and Abel offered the best lambs from his flock. God looked at the gifts from the two brothers. The Bible tells us that God was very pleased with Abel and his gift. God saw that Abel had given his very best with a loving and sincere heart. God accepted Abel's offering, showing that he was happy with the shepherd's thoughtful and generous present. It was a joyful moment for Abel, knowing God was pleased with him. But something different happened with Cain's gift. God was not pleased with Cain's offering. The Bible doesn't say exactly why, but it seems it was not just about the gift itself, but about Cain's heart. Perhaps he did not give his very best, or maybe his heart was not filled with the same love and thankfulness as Abel's. Whatever the reason, God did not accept Cain's gift in the same way. This made a big difference in how Cain felt, and it was the start of a sad and difficult feeling growing inside of him. When Cain saw that God accepted Abel's gift but not his own, a terrible feeling started to grow in his heart. He became very angry, and his face showed his sadness and disappointment. He looked down at the ground, feeling rejected and unhappy. Instead of asking God what he could do better or trying to be happy for his brother, Cain let the anger take over his thoughts. He felt it wasn't fair. This anger was like a dark cloud that covered up all his good feelings, and he couldn't see anything clearly anymore. This feeling of anger was mixed with another powerful and dangerous feeling: jealousy. Cain was jealous of his brother Abel. He was jealous that God seemed to like Abel's gift more. He wished that he was the one who had received God's favor. This jealousy made him look at his brother not with love but with envy and bitterness. He didn't want Abel to be happy if he couldn't be happy too. Jealousy is a tricky feeling that can make people think bad thoughts and forget the love they have for others. God saw the anger and jealousy in Cain's heart and spoke to him gently. God warned Cain, telling him that he had a choice. He could choose to do what was right and overcome these bad feelings, and then he would be accepted. But God also warned him that if he did not choose to do good, sin was waiting at his door ready to control him. God was trying to help Cain, showing him that he could still make the right choice and not let the anger and jealousy win. It was a very important moment for Cain. Sadly, Cain did not listen to God's warning. He let the jealousy and anger grow even bigger inside him until they completely took control of his actions. He could not get past the feeling that his brother was better in God's eyes. This terrible feeling led him to make the worst choice of all. He invited his brother Abel to go out into the fields with him. And there, in the field, Cain's jealousy exploded into a terrible action. He hurt his own brother, letting his bad feelings lead to the first act of violence in the Bible. What Cain did to his brother Abel was a truly terrible thing. It was the first time that jealousy had caused someone to do something so wrong and hurtful. The story shows us how a simple feeling like jealousy, if we let it grow, can become a very dangerous and destructive force. Cain's anger started as a small seed of disappointment, but grew into a big, ugly weed that choked out all the brotherly love in his heart. It teaches us that we must be very careful with feelings of envy and anger, because they can lead us down a very dark path. The lesson from this sad story is very important for all of us today. We all feel jealous sometimes. We might see a friend who has a new toy, or someone who is better at a game, and we might feel a little bit of envy. This story is a strong warning to us. It tells us that when we feel that way, we have a choice, just like Cain did. We can either let the jealousy grow and make us mean and unhappy, or we can choose to be happy for the other person and focus on doing our own best. Making good choices is what this story is all about. God tried to help Cain make a good choice, but Cain refused to listen. We can learn from his mistake. When we feel angry or jealous, we can talk about our feelings with a parent or a friend. We can ask for help to understand why we feel that way. We can choose to be kind instead of mean. We can remember that everyone has different gifts and talents, and that being happy for others does not take away from our own worth. We have the power to control our actions. In the end, the story of Cain and Abel is a powerful reminder to always try to fill our hearts with love and kindness, not with jealousy and anger. It teaches us that our choices matter very much, not just for ourselves but for the people around us. By choosing to celebrate others' successes and by focusing on being the best version of ourselves, we can make the world a much happier and safer place. We can learn from Cain's sad choice and decide every day to choose goodness and love instead.